Hello, Harper Radio listeners. Welcome to Global Education Unpacked, where we explore how college classes are being internationalized, the role of global concepts in coursework, and how study abroad and virtual exchange are shaping students' experiences. I'm your host, Marie Lapidus. This podcast is recorded live at WHCM Radio, produced by Matt Byrne, and features our theme music that you're listening to right now, mint by DJ Double Dip. Today, we have an exciting show, one of my favorite people. I'm joined by Angelica Rackow. Did I say your last name right? Yeah, close enough.
Pretty close.
Okay, you'll have to say it the right way. She is our program specialist in the Office of International Education at Harper College. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in supporting global initiatives on campus, including study abroad opportunities for students, faculty collaboration, and cross-cultural engagement. We'll talk about her own international education journey and how she helps bring opportunities to others at Harper. Welcome, Angelica. Say hello.
Hello.
She is nervous. I don't know why. This is so fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
It's going to be very fun. You need to, it's just you and me. It's just chatting.
Okay.
We're going to be chatting.
We're going to try.
Chatting. Yes.
So the name is Rackow.
Rackow.
Yeah, apparently my father-in-law makes a big deal about that. But I embraced it, the Rackow, because my maiden name is, so I grew up with nobody being able to pronounce that. So when I was presented with an option that would be a little easier to encounter the first time, I was like, okay, I'll take it.
You know, speaking of last names, I feel that for a Russian, my last name is so normal. Because Lapidus, right? None of these 20-syllable long names ending in an OV or something like that.
They are a little intimidating, I'll tell you. I have some kids in my kids' teens that sometimes when I come across a last name, I'm like, Jimmy. We'll stick to the first name.
Yeah. The one thing there with Russian ones, just letting everybody know, when you hit a Russian last name, or probably Ukrainian or Eastern European potentially, but Russian for sure, they sound by the syllable how they're written. So, you just read it the way that it's written.
Just take your time. Go
just
one
take
by
your
one.
time. Take syllable at a time, and you'll be okay.
That's a good recommendation.
Yes. So, see, something new you learn on Global Education Unpacked every single time. But I want to ask you, Angelica, tell us about you and your path, and how you started out, and how you got to be our program specialist, and how you came to the United States, because you're one of my favorite people here on campus, and I think it's because you and I, we're like immigrants, we can make jokes, and, could be inappropriate if somebody else did it, but for us it's fun.
We relate.
We connect on the fact that, we're not, U.S. natives, so it's, although, most of the people here are immigrants, right? But anyway, tell us about your journey.
Tell
us about yourself.
We're the living experience, right? At least one version of many living experience. Yeah, no, I loved how in your question you said, go as way back as you want. So I was like, oh my goodness, how way back are we going to go? But I think I came across international education when I was back in college. So I actually, my bachelor's was in business. And I was presented with an opportunity to do an internship in an advertisement agency, and one of our clients was an program exchange agency. And after we did a fair for them of the opportunities that they had, I was just so excited with what I learned about that. I never even contemplated that for myself. So I connect with a lot of the students that sometimes when we talk about study abroad, they didn't even contemplate that, because that was me back when I was in college. I was born and raised in a fairly decent size in Brazil, really close to São Paulo. My dad passed away when I was 11, and at the time my mom chose to move further countryside to be closer to her family. So it was a very nice place to grow up, because it was not too big, but not too small. And that's where I went to college. It's called Ribeirão Preto, which I think stands for Black Creek. When I actually went to the exchange agency to get paid, to get the check for the agency. They said they were really happy with the work I did, and if I ever was looking for a job after my internship was over, they would be happy to offer me a job. So that's how I ended up as an enrollment advisor, I guess that was the name at the time, and I learned about different study abroad opportunities. It was not just the format that we have here, which is like you go for credits, you earn credits for your experience abroad. There was a lot of travel abroad to work, or you go for high school programs, or so there was a couple different formats of what going abroad for a professional experience or education experience looked like.
Yeah. Well, I want to add, just, interject really quickly for those students who might be listening. This is how internships work. Like, you do an internship and there's potential to get a job. So, look at those. Those are important. You should do internships all the time. And one of them may just be an experience, but the next one may be one where people say, we're going to hire you. This happens everywhere, obviously.
Yeah, everywhere, literally. And in all the different fields, right? I feel like you get exposed to potentially a niche in the field that you didn't even explore before. And that is a great example of how through a business degree, I found my passion in international education. So
exactly. Well, a business degree. So I love business degrees. I'm a little biased, as you can say, because I think you can use them for just about anything, right?
Very, very true.
And by the way, in the United States, business majors are #1 chosen major.
Again,
not surprising, I think.
Not really.
Except my enrollment this semester, people start signing up for classes because the college is up, but my enrollment is down. So somebody needs to start pushing the business classes. Advisors.
There's a whole group out there.
So how did you get to the United States?
Yeah.
What's your path in there?
Sure. So when I joined this exchange program agency, I was inspired by have some experiences myself, right? I thought that would not only give me perspective for professional purposes, but I also wanted to experience myself so I could connect with my potential clients. By having those experiences, I ended up meeting my now husband, and when we got to the point that we had to decide if we were going to make Brazil of our forever home at the time or the U.S., we ended up here. Well, both countries have great things and some challenges, so yes, it's home now, and it's great.
Yes. And you go back home, visit often?
We do. I'm very spoiled. I ended up marrying someone that works for an airline, so it makes it very, very convenient to visit not only Brazil, but around.
And how did you end up at Harper?
I actually live in our community, in our district, and I was between jobs because for personal reasons, and I ended up finding a part-time at Harper just to rejoin the workforce and start slow again. And once you're at Harper,
yes.
But it becomes part of the family, right? Now
yes.
It's a little family here.
Exactly, it is. I feel, the more I've gotten involved in the international education side, the more it does feel like a family, and we all kind of stick together.
Yay, little sis.
Yeah. So what excites you the most about working with students at Harper when it comes to global learning?
Yeah, I think everywhere, not specifically to Harper. I feel like when students are going through this, we call global learning or intercultural learning, I feel like there's this expansion of the world, right? I feel like and I think by the world becoming bigger, their role in the world becomes, they understand themselves a little bit more. So I love for them to understand the layers of how the world is so much more than the reality that they live every day.
Yeah. I feel wherever you live, you tend to be in your bubble of your community and neighborhood, right? And when kids grow up, we do that as parents, right? We want to move into a neighborhood where it's going to be a good neighborhood, where there's good schools, all of that. We talk about that when you're a parent. That's what you think about. But as kids grow up, they end up being in kind of a bubble because they're usually not as exposed because they are just in this community, right? And unless you get them into traveling or maybe even travel sports or things like that, some kind of team where they can go see other places, but they're usually very much in a bubble. Sending them away As far as possible, I say, go on a study abroad. I wanted my children to do that when they were in college. My oldest one now just did a Nepal trip in med school. They didn't do it in college, but yes, it was. She didn't tell me everything that happened until afterwards. So it was a little scary in the beginning. She did get really sick there. As, Americans tend to do in Asian countries when you get she got an extra special bug. She had medicine for the regular bugs. She got an extra special bug. Oh. But, so I do believe in, I kept encouraging them to go and travel and study abroad. I encourage students at Harper the same. I want them to go travel. That's the only way to expand your horizons and really, like you said, understand, all the different layers of the world and how life is, and maybe even to appreciate the life that they have.
100%. And I feel like we've been invited more and more, I feel like, in recent years to really push ourselves to uncomfortable conversations and comfortable situations. And I think there is a huge difference between exposing yourself to these things and going back home after that, where it's very comfortable to curl back and go back to your old ways, while when you are in a different setting and around different people, under further and further differences, I feel like sitting in the uncomfortable, in an uncomfortable setting, is where you're going to get that growth that potentially, unfortunately, we cannot recreate.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Conversation on campus is not the same as being submerged into it day in and day out without having an opportunity to leave when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, but, it's not uncomfortable that you're, like it's terrible. It's uncomfortable because it's growth. That's the difference. It's not uncomfortable because you're being punished in some way.
No, and we're going to talk about how there's a huge concern and effort in the students' well-being and mental well-being. And it's all about creating an environment where students are pushed to that, but in a healthy way.
Yes.
Right? We develop those bonds with the faculty that is leading, or we create ways that the students can navigate that if it gets too uncomfortable. But I feel like it's the setting of not being able to curl back into a very comfortable place back home. You are in a setting that continues to push you further.
So a moment from a Harper trip to maybe to check out even a study abroad site that made you think, this is why I do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been working on some of the marketing materials that we use to promote our office and the things that we do. And we have a picture. So if you come across our trifold this upcoming year, you're going to see there's a picture of a student that it's just sitting in, it's during a safari, actually. They were in Kenya, and she's just looking and just reflecting. And I think that is a huge representation of the debriefing that the group came back with.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just a huge reflection of you revisiting your own, the things that you thought were pre-established for you. So what do you see for your future? What is happiness for you? What you're seeking, what are your future goals? I feel like that group came back very avidly talking about that, how they saw happiness in a simple way that they did not experience back home. And I felt that picture is a great representation of that, talking and building on the other experience, when they were debriefing and talking, collaborating with each other on what that whole reflection was. It was exactly what we were talking in the previous question. It's why I do this. It's like the students now have a more mature idea of what they are looking for their future, what will mean fulfillment for them, and to question themselves if they get caught into the everyday life and seeking for maybe more superficial things. I hope that they go back to that moment they were in Kenya and that they notice those things.
Yeah.
And that they're going to think it doesn't require all this. It can be more simple than that.
I agree with you. It's always, And for me, it was a little bit shocking because we came here and this was the better place to be, is in the United States, and to live a better life and to have, that American dream, right? But when I travel, I see other people having the non-American dream and being very happy having their dream. And sometimes I'm a little jealous of their dreams because it's not, I always say life in the United States is, I think, by far the easiest life from around the world. But I think that doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best life for everyone.
100%. Yeah. And it has all the different layers of like, I love that you use the word easy.
Yeah.
Because I feel life in the United States gives you some dignities that do feel like that could translate into, some people could call best, that when you see how other people live and they don't have all the securities that we have,
right,
that doesn't necessarily translate to unhappiness.
Right. Yeah. So some students will say that studying abroad isn't for them. What would you say to change their minds? I mean, you probably have to do this quite a bit in your job, right?
A little bit.
Well, I guess people show up to the international office already thinking to go on a study abroad or maybe consider it. So, but if you're doing a presentation and there's hecklers going like, I'm not doing the study abroad.
Well, I come back right after them and I say, why? Because I think most of the people that think study abroad is not for them, it's because there's a challenge that they need to overcome.
Yes.
And most challenges, by chit-chatting with a student, we find creative ways to overcome.
Yes.
So I think specifically at Harper, I come across the two most common challenges that I feel students have to overcome. They are financial concerns. The other one is a lack of understanding about how truly study abroad experiences can be meaningful to them. Okay, and so I think the financial concerns, the financial challenges, they are very straightforward, and I feel like throughout my time in the office, I've been there for 3 years, I feel like slowly I'm getting better and better in how to communicate or exemplify to students how we can overcome that. So there's definitely there's definitely scholarships, and some things that I've been doing now in my presentations is even show actual examples of students that are either abroad at the time or they have just come, gone and coming back, and how the cost of the program was than how much students had to pay out of pocket. So financial challenges are getting easier and easier to communicate to students how we can overcome. But the other one, I feel like it's more nuanced, it's more challenging. And I feel like one of the things that adds to that is actually connected to what we were talking about before, the challenges of recreating what you experience abroad. So I think a lot of students, they think we live in an incredible, diverse, international community. Our district is super, super international. Like I said, I live in the district, and my kids are in elementary school, and last year the teacher invited all the kids that spoke in different languages to put hello in their native languages, and they put at the door. And when I was visiting the class, there was like over 10 languages. And I'm like, this is so exciting. Like, I love that my kids are exposed to that. However, I feel like by students thinking that through your community or through entertainment, you can really, really grasp those different intercultural things. And in reality, you are exposed, but again, you don't push enough in a local setting like you would when you are immersed in a different place, in a different culture.
I agree. And the thing is about having a different experience. It's maybe you being immersed into a different culture, and there is immersion here because we have all these different cultures, like even in this room right now.
Yes.
I think we have all these different cultures. But it's not the same kind of immersion. You want to have other kinds of immersion experiences, and I think it's a comfortable immersion experience when you are here, again, because like you said, you can go home and you can, kind of be in your own. But when you are abroad and you are there, you cannot, instantly go home and go back to that, unless you hide, in your room and under a cover. So you get to be immersed in a different type of way. And I think there's nothing wrong with either one, but I think you need to have both of them. Like, it shouldn't just be one. It should be more than just one experience, because I have all of these people around me, because they're also in the United States with you. Mm-hmm. And living this particular life, not necessarily their particular life that they would have lived in their country.
And I feel like it's one thing for you to get exposed to something that is different from you, and then you go home and you say, oh, that was cool, but it's different, and it's not how I do it. And then when you're living, the next day, there's an additional piece to why is it the way it is.
Right.
And the third day, you actually tried that, and it actually doesn't feel that bad. And then on the fourth day, you actually start enjoying. And by the time you come back, it doesn't mean that it changed you. You're not going to embrace that forever, but you understand why the person does the way they do.
Yes.
And you might even do every once in a while just to reground yourself.
I agree. You know, I go and buy all the food that I ate as a kid and eat it now. And I can find it now because we are in such a diverse community, and all the stores exist, and you can even do that. You help faculty plan short-term study abroad programs.
Yeah.
Anything interesting, surprising about that process when you're working, like with me, because I'm doing work?
I'm glad that you finally put a proposal. Let's just say that. I'm excited.
I have a good proposal. After I learn how to do this is the key, and I think I want to, kind of emphasize that. You have to learn how to do the proposals the correct way, because it is a process. So, like you may, I was kind of thinking like, oh, this is a really cool study abroad. But people don't understand that because they haven't been where I've been. Like, I went to check out the site, I went through the process, I know what they're doing there. You have to explain that when you're applying through a college to, to have it formalized and all of that. You can't just be like, oh, this is a really great study program.
So one thing that surprised me and continued to surprise me is how the faculty that proposes these programs, they're deeply involved with international education. So it's not just a faculty out there that woke up today and decided that they want to take students to, London. It's often people that have had a lot of opportunities to further develop their intercultural skills. They're in a journey themselves of intercultural exchange and learning from faculty that comes from abroad or from field opportunities that we have. So when faculty proposes these, they want to recreate some of their own aspects of their own journey. So that's something that surprised me before working in this field. I just thought it was a random professor that decided that they want to take students abroad. There is so much more meaning and so much more intention behind the proposals. And believe me, the faculty that proposes these, they don't finish the program and they're done. They often stay connected with us doing other things. So that's something that surprised me, and I hope that it tells students gives them some information on the quality of the experience that they would have.
Absolutely. And, I'm going through that process, and, it is, like I said, it is a process, but it is, you just have to follow the setup of what needs to be done and to kind of understand what everybody is looking for, because you need, lots of approvals and all of that. But all of those are set up on purpose so that you have you prevent as many issues as you can that could potentially happen on a trip abroad beforehand. Like, you've at least thought about them. Like, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? What are you going to be doing every day? Who's responsible for what? What if something happens? Where's the hospital? Mm-hmm. Right? Those are the kind of things that when you think about a study abroad, you may not think about all of the things that are potential things that could happen. Not necessarily bad things, but like, you just need to be prepared for what happens. Like somebody's late, your thing doesn't show up, like you're supposed to be doing this day and it doesn't happen. What are you going to do, right? You need to have backup plans and you need to think about that. And I think when you're excited, like I was very excited about my program, like, oh yeah, I have to think about it. How do you do that? I have to contact the providers and be like, well, who's responsible for this? And who provides insurance? You don't think about all of these things because you're excited about the experience. You don't think about all these things until you're asked. And I value that, actually. I was like, you know what, now I get how it's done, and I understand what it's there for, and all of the rules that are put into place for that. So I appreciate that. So.
And the exciting thing is, I think throughout the process also you were connected to other faculty that propose other programs. And I think this exchange is so valid because in addition to, we get a faculty that is super excited, right? And then I imagine as you guys come with this bowl of excitement and we help to kind of sort things in this bucket.
Yes.
And maybe bring up some additional organizational tools.
Yes. And I'm thrilled that we have an office that can help you through all of that. Like that you're not going to end up in a different country with a bunch of students and being like, oh no, this is my situation. Again, the bus didn't show up. Like, what am I supposed to do, right? You've planned for that. Like, there's backup plans for all of these things. There's a storm. Like, you never know. Like, things happen.
Yes, you see, it's very important to have an office of international.
Yes, it absolutely is. I even appreciate having a travel agency when I went to D.C. and got stuck over there, and my, American decided not to fly us anywhere.
Yes.
So, and took my luggage on top of it. So, it was nice to have somebody, like, in the background who can also help you. Like, you're not the only one dealing with things. So, and that's important when you're abroad, because you're abroad with people and you want to make sure that they have the best experience possible, but life happens, so it's nice to have that backup.
Yeah, and just adding to people to know some of the aspects that are evaluated when a proposal comes in, right? So we see exactly those things. If sometimes we want programs that that the costs are reasonable to our students,
Yes,
right? But
absolutely.
that can never come at the expense of safety and risk management. So we always like to have someone on the ground as a point of contact. We always have some sort of insurance. So throughout the evaluation to get a program approved, a lot of things are taken into consideration. So hopefully when students choose to join, they feel safe.
Yeah, safe. And I feel that. So how do your Brazilian roots influence your approach to global education and cultural exchange? Does it come into play? Like, hey, I'm from another country, you should all go. Because that's how I feel.
Brazil shares a lot of the joy and flexibility of Latino culture in general. So I think a lot working with students when you're presenting for them to go, it's like that openness that I think it's very much part of Latino culture. It's just like joy and happiness and openness. So I think that I bring that a lot. And
yes, you do, because I certainly don't have it, and I'm glad that you do. Eastern Europeans are different. Like, you have all those memes about our faces never changing because the emotion is always the same.
I think that is the joy of international education is built in exchange. And I think that's exactly what it is. I feel like we find a beautiful balance between that overjoy.
We're overjoyed. Am I like,
yeah, you ground me. That's what it is. It's a balance.
And you make me excited.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and you keep me grounded a little bit.
Yes. Well, it's not just me. I'm not that bad.
Not at all.
Place you visited that changed your perspectives.
Yeah, so that is tricky because I feel
besides your home.
Yes. Well, that changed a lot of different perspectives throughout life. I feel like I am the kind of person that I like to do a little research when I go to places, but I like to leave a little space for not over preparation. I want to be surprised by a few things. So I think every place that I've been, they have surprised me in different ways. So what I do like to share as an experience was actually a place that I went with a little bit more of a structured goal, and I came out with something more profound. So when I was in grad school, I did a study abroad to Greece that was really, really focused in education and education for refugee population. It was in 2019. There was a lot of challenges with Greece in that matter of controlling and supporting the refugee population that was arriving there. And we did so much study in that and resources that were available or politics and all that. But after going there and being with the people that were doing the work, Greek people are very, very proud of their culture and of
Absolutely.
So it really instilled me like a whole reflection on like the concept of citizenship and what makes one citizen of that place and what rights should a citizen have that another human being should not. So it's just going back to the question, I just always encourage students when they are going into these programs, there is a bigger goal, but be open to the other surprising things that will come your way, you know.
I read Harari's Sapiens, and that book has changed my perspective on the human race altogether.
Interesting.
And he talks in there, you know, because the Sapiens is kind of like the history of the world. So he's a professor from Israel, and he took all of his, I guess, notes or class notes or whatever and made a book out of them because people were like, you need to write a book, because he would present this to class, right? Because he teaches history. When you look at it like as from beginning to end, because when we go to school, we learn history from this year to this year, or in this area to,
very fragmented.
Very fragmented. And when we put it all together, it is like, it was eye-opening, and you would think like, but like, it was eye-opening to see, who actually owns land, right? Not, like, why are you not an owner here, but you can be an owner there? And like, just because you were born someplace, now that land is yours? Like, why does the United States own the United States?
Yes.
And kind of to your citizenship conversation, like, why is movement not allowed? Right? Why can't humans just decide to live wherever they want to live?
Yeah.
And there's all these rules. So I totally like that conversation still. And that book has just opened up my mind to like all of that conversation of like, who are we? And it's, after I read his book, I just like, humans are just horrible. Like we are horrible species. We kill everything, like each other. We kill nature. We kill like whatever we get our hands on, destroyed. And you can see that all throughout history. And it's just amazing, like just amazing how we are. Like it's so nasty, but.
And I think it's amazing how we do so much of that in a way to preserve what we value, right? I don't know.
I agree.
I think we can go down the rabbit hole
of that forever. Yeah. Yes.
But I just want to point out that recently, actually, I read about, or I think I read in one of the international education newsletters that we get, and it was a testimony of a professor that took students, and they were analyzing immigration right down in our south border, and he said that there was just like an hour reflection when they just stopped in front of the border. And it was just a matter like, can you imagine how your life would be if you had just been born a few feet away?
A few feet away.
Yeah. So to your point, yeah. And it's all social construct, right?
All social construct. And the same when I went to Panama to check out the Panama study abroad site, we went to the Panama Canal. And so around the Panama Canal, it used to, the United States owned the land, right? So if you were born close enough to the Panama Canal in Panama, you're a U.S. citizen. But then you're still in that country, and it's the conversation is funny, and I'm not going to get into it. But the Panamanians have now built another part of the Panama Canal that they have done themselves, and they like for the bigger ships, and it's like modern and more modern than what was built before and whatever, and just the whole concept of like, oh, we're going to take it.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun to see that.
Yeah. But that can be in so many aspects of life in general. But when you're talking about physical barriers that are connected to nations, it's just, it's very...
Well, and those are the kind of thoughts you could have if you go on a study abroad.
Yes.
There's other things to consider as you're sitting there looking out at Kenya and going like, I was born somewhere else, and like, and this person was born here.
And look how they do this, and I do this differently. Why is it one better than the other? They're not.
Exactly. So, dream study abroad trip, where would you go? Where would you want to go?
Oh, where do you think? I would take students to Brazil. I've been around for 3 years. I don't have one faculty exploring that. So I need to plant a seed.
Hey, I'm already going to Panama, so Brazil is just not a really far stretch from there. So next one.
Well, so here you asked me to envision my dream one.
Yes.
So I went a little crazy.
Go for it.
So I think, well, first of all, we've been doing this model of interdisciplinary. So I would definitely like to have more than one discipline involved, more than one course involved. And I envision, even though it's very challenging, I was envisioning a 4-week, so it's very long.
I spent a year in France, so to me, 4 weeks is nothing.
There you go. Yeah.
You know.
We have a group in Germany right now. They're going to be there for 4 weeks, so it's possible. But Brazil's similar to the U.S. It's big. So because it's big and you have all that territory, sometimes you have very different groups of people in a very small area. So imagine if you do have a huge area like Brazil or the U.S., you have very different ways of living, right?
Right.
So so in Brazil, if I could build a study abroad, we would start right in São Paulo, so we could really understand a little bit of economy, urban life, a little bit of history. The second week, we would go to Salvador, which is in a state called Bahia. Salvador is actually the first capital of Brazil. A lot of people don't know, and it's where we have the how to call, like the Afro culture is where the Afro culture lives in Brazil and breathes and really is really nurtured there. So I would bring my students there so we could talk a little bit more about like colonialism and Brazilian history, like the beginning, and how the transition, the flux of people change the way the culture is there. We would talk also a little bit about religion, because this movement of people also impacted how religion and faith is practiced in this region. For the third week, we would go to the Amazon, because if you're in Brazil and you go to the Amazon, come on. And then I would love if someone in biology or geography would be involved, and we could talk about sustainability and biodiversity and indigenous people, indigenous culture. And we would finish the program in Rio, because how could you not? Yeah. We would explore current, like, modern life in Brazil, and we would talk about pop culture and nation branding and things like that.
I think we need to plan that. I want to go. We need to plan that.
Let's find some partners.
We need to find some partners. Before we finish up, rapid fire, a few questions.
Ooh.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I drink coffee. I need coffee.
You're Brazilian, right? Like,
yes.
That's life. Beach or mountains?
Beach. My goodness, the winter here makes me love beach even more. Don't put me on the top of a mountain with any breeze. I just want to be burning.
Well, this podcast will be, listened to whenever, but today it's very warm in Chicago and very humid. I don't know, that makes me want to be on the beach, just because I just want to go in the water and not experience the outside that we have today.
I feel like that's something that we balance in each other too.
A city or countryside?
I love cities.
Me too. I'm a city girl.
You can put me in most big cities out there, and I find joy in just walking around and seeing people. Absolutely.
Samba or salsa?
Oh gosh. You all should know, as much as I love to dance, because I am a terrible dancer, especially for people. When people know I'm Brazilian, they expect me to know soccer, which I don't very much, but I enjoy playing, and they expect me to be a good dancer. I love to dance, but I'm not good at it. So I would choose samba just because I feel a little more comfortable, but don't expect me to do a good job with samba or salsa.
Hey, you know what? It's the joy of doing it. We can watch the professionals do it, and that's one thing. But when you see people just joyfully dancing, I think that's even, more interesting.
Well, it sure looks interesting, but it sure is joyful. I love to dance. We should do that more often, by the way.
I know. Well, we have our dance troupe here. We should have them do some Brazilian dancing.
Oh, there's that.
There's that. Okay, well, we got to plan that, and we got to plan the study abroad in Brazil.
Well, that one will take a bit.
Yes. Well, because, the application just takes a couple of months to do. So, but it's worth it. And for the students who are listening who want to go to Brazil, tell your faculty so they do it for you. Angelica, thank you for coming on the show.
Definitely not. Great company here.
Great, thank you. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please like and follow us on Instagram at Global Ed Unpacked. You can also watch the recorded show on YouTube channel Global Education Unpacked when I put it on there, so don't be waiting for it today. And listen to the audio version of your favorite podcast platform once I get those out there. This episode was recorded live at WHCM Radio, produced by Matt Byrne, and features theme music by DJ Double Dip. It's called Mint. Find it on your favorite, music channel, Spotify, Apple Music. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep exploring the world through education.
Thank you, Matt and Marie.